Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Let me introduce some members of town government that assist this board. To my left is Simone Bogarty, Assistant Town Attorney. To her left is Blaise Donadio, a planner in the Planning Department. We are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts presented. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision, and they are as follows. They're also listed up there for you. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Number 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. When you are called, please present certificates of postings and mailings to Mr. Donadio if you haven't done so already. And then you will be asked to go to the podium. We will state your name and address for the record, and then proceed to tell us why you need your variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your case, they will be given one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant will be asked to come back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. There are 2 ways to find out about your case. You can call the planning office tomorrow after 12 p.m., or you can wait and be notified by mail. We do have one case that's being withdrawn tonight. That is case number 18916, Rutherford Street, LLC. That case is being withdrawn. Anyone here for that case? No? Okay. All right, Blaise.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda, case number 18997, Nicholas and Nicole Cardy, 66 Atterbury Drive, Smithtown. The location of the property is the southeast corner of Atterbury Drive and Strong's Lane. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 50 feet to 43 feet for a proposed 44-square-foot first-floor addition.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Donadio. As the board can see from the survey, this is a corner property. It must have already been granted a variance some time ago because, as again you can see from the survey, there is a porch which encroaches on the front yard setback, the same distance that we're asking for now for the small addition. We don't think that this will have an effect on the character of the area or the neighborhood. Can the benefit be created in some other manner? No, because this is the only place where the addition could be built. Is the request substantial? Obviously, in this case, it's not. And whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect on the environment, we think not. And finally, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. We didn't build it yet. We're asking for the board's permission to do so. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No, thanks.
Planner?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18998, Anthony Reyes, 15 Wicks Path, Comac. The location of the property is the east side of Wicks Path, 390 feet north of Quail Place. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 45 feet to 36 feet, to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 16 feet to 7 feet for an existing 755 square foot detached garage.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Flanagan. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Mr. and Mrs. Reyes, Evangeline and Tony Reyes. And this is not part of the application per se, but I just want to say it's very nice to be here. It's been quite a while since I've been before the board. And I'm here on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Reyes tonight. I happen to work with Evangeline in my new capacity, and just trying to support them in their efforts tonight. So, and I also want to thank the Planning Department, Blaze in particular, for his answering all of my questions before coming here today. So, going to exactly to the application, the Reyes have owned this property for about 6 years, having purchased the residence from Evangeline's parents. They made a number of improvements on the property, and looking at the survey, it's obviously a rather unique piece of property. It's a pretty decent size. They have a pool in the backyard. Everything but this garage is properly CO'd, including the sheds. And what I would suggest is that the Reyes have made a number of improvements on the property, on looking to continue to do so. If you look at the front side yard if you're facing the house to the left, they have done a significant amount of landscaping. They've done that by improving their property, but also helping the situation for the most immediately abutting neighbor. There were trees hanging over the neighbor's property. They removed a number of trees in the front yard, and they've also removed a number of trees in the back part of the yard. So the survey was a little easier to look at. But the point being that they've made significant landscaping improvements on the property, have been in contact with their neighbors just in terms of stuff that they've been doing on the property. And maybe I should back into this. Was this alleged difficulty self-created? Yes, they made a mistake. They erected the garage without getting the proper permits for building it. But looking at it, it is a 755 square foot structure. They spent about $18,000 on this garage. They spent about another $12,000 in improvements for access to the garage by installing the driveway. They've spent a considerable amount of money in their backyard as well. And the primary reason they're looking to do this is to provide more storage, not only for their cars, but for possessions in their house. The Reyes have a 5-year-old son who happens to be autistic, and they're trying to modify the inside of their house so that they have the most requisite and appropriate space for him to facilitate his learning, not only when he's in school, but to provide an environment inside the house. So one of the goals they have is to make sure that the garage provides them with a decent amount of storage. We don't believe that this is going to have an adverse impact on the neighborhood. Looking at the property, the neighbor immediately across the street would be the only one that would directly see the garage. The Reyes have had conversations with them, and I think it would be fair to say that they get along with all their neighbors. They've had their adjoining neighbor, a couple of tree issues that they all resolved, and everybody gets along amicably. I don't want to speak formally for the neighbor on the other side of the fence where they have a pool, and that's where the trees were removed, and it appeared that she had no objection to the application as well. Don't believe it's going to have any environmental adverse impacts in the community, and because they've made improvements to the property. And with regard to whether or not this is substantial, going from 45 to 36 feet, yes, that is a 20% request. I would argue that that is not substantial, but also in terms of the setback, I think the requirement was 8 feet, and their request is 7 feet. Mr. Reyes, when they originally started to do this, had hired a contractor, had conversations about the fact that it was going to be even closer to the neighbor's fence line, and they pushed it out a few feet at the time, not realizing that they would be violating the setback requirement. So they are looking to make improvements at their property, and will certainly be guided by whatever this board says and whatever the building department may say thereafter if the board sees fit to grant this application.
Okay. Was this a prefabbed metal carport that just came and they put it in place? Or was it built in place?
It's a modular, yeah, it's a
So it was delivered and just,
I'm not sure the Reyes would say it just got plopped in. But yes, that's the nature of the garage is as you described.
right, so all the necessary footings are in to support the garage?
Yes, I looked at, I'm not an engineer by any stretch, I looked at all the drawings. The last 3 pages of the documents that were submitted with regard to the blueprints detail what's been done for the anchor footings and the soil footings. They run the whole perimeter of the garage. Some of them anchor more deeply. But if I recollect what Mr. Reyes said to me, that this, looking at the wind force that this would withstand, it's 160 miles an hour. So I would suggest that they don't want to put anything in the ground that wouldn't suit their needs, but I think that the footings are such that it will withstand any concerns that the town may have.
Okay. Yeah, we passed by there today. The one thing I did notice, you have 3 garage doors in the front,
Correct.
in front. But each one has a lock on it. It's not like it's more commercial than it is residential. I didn't see a garage door opener. It's got a lock on it, so if you brought a car in, you'd have to get out of the car, go over, unlock it.
I can't properly answer that, but let me say this. I walked in the garage last night, went in the side door. I can ask Mr. Reyes to comment on that. The other thing, too, is just they are conforming their house and the garage together. They're getting new siding on their house that will mirror some of the
Okay.
colors that are on the garage. So they didn't just drop this in there and said, we're going to put this simplest thing that we could find. They're going to be changing the siding on their house, so it'll be consistent, but that doesn't really answer your question. So
If he
may I
wants
ask
to come up.
Mr. Reyes? Yes.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening, guys.
Can you just introduce yourself, please? Your name and address?
Good evening. My name is Anthony Reyes. I live at 15 Wicks Pat, Comac, New York.
Thank you.
Can you ask the question again, please?
The question was the locks on the front.
So temporarily, we do have regular locks, regular key locks, but we did want to invest in mechanical openings, but didn't want to invest until we actually hear something from the board, or if it's approved. If not, those mechanical doors are pretty expensive.
Okay. So basically what you're doing, you're redoing your existing house, so you're going to use this garage as storage
Correct. So we're going to use it for storage. A lot of this.
until you finish the conversion of your house?
That is correct. And so a lot of the storage is going to remain storage for our son primarily. As Ms. Fanning has mentioned, our son, he's autistic, so a lot of the toys, a lot of the things that we have in his room, or even overall for playing activities, they're large, like pit ball, pits of like filled with balls or anything that's, catered for autistic kids. We can't keep them in the house, so we just put it inside the garage. But that won't happen until we actually finish with minor construction inside of the house. And what I mean about that is just like the dishwasher, the refrigerator, just minor things. We want to make space for the kid.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18999, Paul and Deborah Bella, 58 Shirley Court, Comac. The location of the property is the south side of Shirley Court, 329 feet east of Broadview Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 50 feet to 45 feet for a proposed 443 square foot, one-story addition.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. Paul Bella, residing at 58 Shirley Court. This is my architect, Robert Treasure, who will speak on my behalf.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Could you just introduce yourself?
Sure.
Spell your last name so we get it correct on the record, and give your
Sure.
address, please.
It's Robert Treasure, Tredger, and address is 8 Roosevelt Drive, Smithtown, New York.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairperson Benz and board members. My name, as I explained, is Robert Treasurer. I'm the architect for the Bellas. I'm here to represent the applicants that reside at 58 Shirley Court in Comac. We're here before you this evening to present a proposed one-story, 443-square-foot family room addition on the rear of the existing residence. We're seeking a variance approval for a reduction of the rear yard setback, requesting a 45 feet where 50 feet is required in the R10 residential zone. This constitutes a relaxation of 10%. The proposed addition design, as you can see, blends into the aesthetics of the existing house using similar materials, and the proposed height is actually below the existing roof, making it limited visibility from the street. And the proposed addition would fit within the nature and character of the neighborhood. That's pretty much what the request is. I'd like to, I guess, open up to any questions.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you. Could I just ask you to stop by the table before you leave?
Sure.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Do you have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All good? Okay. The next case on the agenda is case number 19000. Michael Cohen, 96 Rhett Court, Comac. The location of the property is the north side of Rhett Court, 60 feet west of Scarlet Drive. The property is zoned R6. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum setback for paving from a property line from 1 foot to 0, to increase the maximum permitted paved distance of a patio from dwelling from 10 feet to 18 feet for proposed 18-foot by 26-foot rear paver patio.
Good evening.
Good evening. Michael Cohen, C-O-H-E-N, 96 Red Court, Comac. He's going to talk on my behalf.
Fine, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Dean Koutsoumbis. That's Koutsoumbis. The expediter here on behalf of Michael Cohen. We are seeking a variance to construct a proposed rear patio, which will be 18 feet by 26 feet. The patio will be 0 feet from the side property line where 1 foot is required, and the patio will also be 18 feet from the back of the house where 10 feet is the maximum required. Our proposed work is in the rear of a condo building. This is in character with other homes in the development who have built similar patios. The patio is on grade, it's not raised. If it's going to be raised, it's going to be raised just a few inches, nothing substantial. And there is at least 20 feet of open space or grass from my client's building to the building to the north. We have previously submitted a written approval from the HOA for this improvement. There are other ones that have existed in the neighborhood and have been built in the neighborhood. I would also like to add that that the existing patio that's there now, even though it's smaller, it's in poor condition. The wood border is deteriorated. It's in immediate need to be replaced. We feel that this variance is reasonable and would kindly request this board's approval.
This is in Tara.
Yes.
Tara? Okay. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application? Planning?
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 19001, Ryan Stoller, 49 Wireless Boulevard, Hauppauge. The location of the property is the south side of Wireless Boulevard, 340 feet east of Moreland Road. The property is zoned LI. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum landscaped area from 18% to 14% of the lot for proposed landscaping.
Good evening.
Good evening. Garrett Gray, Weber Law Group, 290 Broad Hollow Road, Melville, for the applicant. And I will also say it is very good to be back before this board. I will be brief. On May 11th of 2022, this board was kind enough to grant us a parking variance where 291 spaces were required and 131 spaces were provided. On April 6, 2023, the Smithtown Planning Department approved our site plan with proposed stalls of 94 and land bank parking of 37 for a total of 131. After speaking with prospective tenants, it was determined that they all would like additional parking, so we approached the planning department and said we would like to convert some of the land bank parking into parking stalls, and we submitted an amended site plan dated August 22nd, 2023, which has 126 proposed stalls, 5 land bank stalls for a total, again, of 131. So 32 land bank stalls were being converted to parking. It was at this time that we were alerted to the fact that we had made an error when we first submitted the plan that we missed and planning missed, which was we had counted the land bank parking, which was going to be landscaping, towards the landscaping percentage, which we stated was about 20%, where 18% is required. If we take away, as we're supposed to, that we are reduced to 14.24%, where 18% is required. That's the variance we seek today. Planning had advised that they didn't have a problem with it, but it needed to go before this board. So that's what we are here for. There will not be any impact on the neighboring properties. They're all industrial. Nobody will even see the fact that the land bank parking is converted to regular parking, as there is a dense vegetative buffer between the street and the parking. Additionally, we have added additional plantings to the areas currently vegetated. So while it doesn't increase the percentage, it does make it a denser vegetation. Again, no environmental impact. While there is overall less landscaping, there'll be less idling of cars. There'll be no visual change in the site. The variance is not substantial. We're going from 18% to 14.24%, subtracting 3.75%. It cannot be achieved by any other means. We have landscaped everywhere there is availability to landscape, and self-created. All of this is self-created, so I won't even try with that one.
Okay.
And that's the presentation. That's what
Okay.
we're here for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
No, thank you.
Planning?
Thank you for explaining that. No comments.
Sabrina, you have nothing, right? Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Have a motion to close the application, please? Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks
Motion
very
carries.
much.
Thank you.
I know if I'm back in 10 years, Arlene will be sitting right there.
The next case on the agenda, case number 19002, Maxim Gagnaron, 84 Jericho Turnpike, Comac. The location of the property, the south side of Jericho Turnpike, 269 feet east of Walter Court. The property is zoned CB. The applicant is requesting a variance to increase the maximum permitted height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 19 feet for a proposed 97-square-foot illuminated wall sign.
Good evening.
Good evening, once again, members of the board. I am here tonight on behalf of PGA Superstore. It's a new store that recently opened in this development. We're seeking a variance to increase the wall sign from 15 feet to 19 feet as advertised, but the actual is 18'3", but they always round up. So that's with that's why we went to the 19 feet. The sign is located in the existing sign band of the building. This is the same location that was used for the sign of the prior tenant, which was Best Market. There's no changes to the facade of the building to accommodate this sign, and there's no change in height from what was previously approved. Due to the store openings, the signs were installed prior to this hearing. I know it's not appropriate for me to be asking for forgiveness. However, this situation was somewhat self-created, but to further explain that, my understanding was that there were prior discussions with the tenant and town representatives regarding this situation. The store had its grand opening on September 9th, and it was important that the signs be installed for the grand opening. From speaking to my clients on the fact that this needed a variance was an unforeseen condition, and they did not know that a variance would be required for this sign. There was one other sign on the property, on the pylon sign as well, that did not need a variance. That is installed as well. This was a rather large, retail establishment, which really needed the signs, and that's why we're here asking for the variance. Okay, my name is Dean Koutsoubis. That's Koutsumbis.
The store is set back a good, what, 200, 300 feet from Jericho Turnpike?
It's a good distance, because there's a lot of parking, there's a lot of trees, there's other stores, there's other retail stores actually in front of the store. So you can't, to emphasize, the viewing of this sign is best viewed once you're actually in the parking lot. So it's not, I know it's a little bit higher than the code allows, but with all the screening that's in a way, it's not so visible from the street or from even the development across the street. I'll submit, or I'll show, I have a photo from what was there previously, just to show that it's in line, that our, new sign, our new sign is somewhat similar to what was previously there, in size and height.
Yeah. I was there, and it's hard to see the sign from the street, believe it or not. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
Just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, this is the Mayfair Shopping Center on Jericho Turnpike. The buildings are set very far back from Jericho Turnpike. Although the sign exceeds the maximum permitted height, it's probably recommended that a sign be slightly higher in this area because of the visibility from the road. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please? Motion's been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you all.
You know what surprised me? It was so tremendous.
The next case on the agenda, case number 19003, Denise and Jose Luis Ramirez, 3 Marie Crescent, Comac. The location of the property is the northeast corner of Marie Crescent and Dewey Road. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 50 feet to 34 feet for an existing 362-square-foot roof-over patio.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Denise, Denisse, last name Ramirez, Ramirez, 3 Marie Crescent, Comac, New York, 11725. And the reason for the variance is because my father gifted us the rear roof patio, and which, like it was said, it reduced the yard. And that's basically what I have to say. Sorry.
Okay. All the paperwork handed in, the cards and everything?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So it's just a roof over your existing patio?
And yeah, which he reduced the required space.
Did a nice job. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No, you have nothing. right? Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
That's the idea. The next case on the agenda, case number 19004, Agape Carapistolis, 2 Cornell Court South, Smithtown. The location of the property is the west side of Cornell Court South, 88 feet south of Cornell Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 37 feet for a previously approved sunroom converted to a 229-square-foot addition.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Christina Fry, an attorney with offices at 7 Pine Ridge Drive, Smithtown, New York, on behalf of Agape Carapistolis, the owner of the property at 2 Cornell Court South in Smithtown. The applicant was before this board in 2007, 16 years ago, for an existing sunroom at that time and the same footprint as the structure that you see submitted today. That sunroom at some point began to leak. The seals on the glass were broken and you couldn't see through the glass anymore. And once water started entering the home, it was time to do something. And they took down the sunroom glass, reconstructed the walls to solid walls and a higher roof line, for which we now need approval for the same 37-foot setback that was approved back in 2007. A stop work order was issued to the Carapistolis family, and therefore construction was stopped, and that's why you see the photos that you do today with the Tyvek wrap and no windows. There are windows proposed. You just simply don't see them because the Tyvek was not cut out for the windows when they were given the stop work order. The change to solid walls from the original sunroom would not produce any undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood. In fact, I think it's actually an enhancement to the home rather than the previously existing sunroom. The benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by another method other than knocking down the entire front addition. As I said, it occupies the same footprint as it did in 2007 and the years prior. She would have to cut it back an additional 3 feet, which only amounts to 7.5%. I don't think is substantial and something that you won't be able to tell from the front street line. And the variance would not have a adverse effect on the environment. In fact, before, when it was a sunroom and it had a glass roof, there was no way for the runoff to be caught. It was simply seeping into the foundation below. Now we propose gutters, so there'll be leaders going to dry wells so that the runoff is caught and properly contained, so it won't enter the street area. And the alleged difficulty was self-created. For that, she does apologize profusely, and I think she has suffered enough having to look at Tyvek for the last 3 months.
All right, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No? Nothing? Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please? Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Good night.
The next case on the agenda, case number 19005, Howell Silverman, 12 Partridge Drive, Comac. The location of the property is the west side of Partridge Drive, 544 feet south of Rondi Drive. The property is owned R15. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 45 feet to 41 feet for a proposed 124 square foot front portico.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Brian Fiore, architect, appearing on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Silverman.
Are they present?
They are
Are they
present.
here?
Yes.
Do you need them
He
to
didn't
introduce
submit a power of
themselves?
attorney, did he?
Um,
You didn't submit a power of attorney, right?
No.
No. I would need one of you up first.
Sure.
Good evening,
Evening.
sir. Can you just introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Howell Silverman, residing at 12 Partridge Drive, Comac, New York, 11725.
Would you like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
I would,
Fine.
please.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes.
State your name, spell your last name so we get it correct on the record,
You got it.
and your address, please.
Brian Fiore, Fiore, and I'm at 208 North Wisconsin Avenue, Massapequa. We're here today to propose a 7-foot by 18-foot front roofed-over porch. This doesn't meet the required 45-foot front yard setback. We're proposing a front yard setback of 41 feet. There's currently an existing platform there that we're building this roofed-over porch on already, so we're matching that footprint. If there's no permitted encroachments for a porch, there's only a permitted encroachment for a portico. That's 6 by 6, so pretty much any size porch they do here would require a variance. We have a separate application for a renovation, pretty extensive for most of the house, and did our best to avoid variances with that, but this, we feel, is a pretty minor variance request and does not have any negative impacts, and certainly will fit in with the characteristics of the neighborhood for a front porch. Also, the Silvermans recently moved into this house to be close to their children and grandchildren that are around the block, so they plan on being here and fixing up the house.
Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning.
No, thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night. Okay.
The next case on the agenda, case number 19006, Nicolo Caputi, 9 Tarleton Lane, Fort Salonga. The location of the property is the north side of Tarleton Lane, 225 feet west of Truxton Lane. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to decrease the maximum distance from any lot line from 10 feet to 8 feet for a begun prior 720-square-foot gazebo, to increase the height of a retaining wall from 6 feet to 8 feet for existing retaining walls, both B and C, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the front yard from 25% to 38% for an existing asphalt driveway.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Board. My name is Nicola Caputi. I'm the owner of 9 Tarleton Lane. The request variances I am asking for is first one is the distance from the lot line from 10 feet to 8 feet. When the retaining wall was being built, the person building it did it off the fence line and didn't look at the survey, and that's where we came up with the short about 2 feet. There is a grading slope that goes down, so at that one juncture in one corner, it's at 6 feet, but to maintain level to where the pavers are, we had to go to 8 feet in the corner over there, between wall B and C. That's just, before that, prior to that, there was, when we bought the house, there was bamboo, which it was growing all over the place, heading towards the neighbors' yards and all that, so we removed all that, and we had a big gaping hole right there, so we decided to do something for the family. As regards to the front yard, when we purchased the home, that was there. That was the only thing that wasn't self-created. When it was built in '06, I believe, the original owners built it, got approved, and when we bought the house, it was never an issue. We did a small extension when we first moved in 17, 18. Was an issue then, got a generator, wasn't an issue. It's been there for a long time and hasn't caused any effects to the environment and whatnot. Apologize.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
Planning.
No, thank you.
Sabrina?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, one minor comment. The survey submitted indicates that a portion of the existing eastern stockade fence in the rear property encroaches up to 2.1 feet onto the neighboring residential parcel to the east. We recommend removal or legalization of these encroachments.
The fence right by where,
Where, by the yellow there, yeah, where his mouse is.
Yeah, right there.
Yep.
okay, just to move it to the property
Move
line.
property line.
That's not a problem.
All right, you have to move it back on your property.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, that was there, that fence was there when we bought the place, like, when we bought the house. And I think the neighbor, they all signed that affidavit or something,
Okay,
but that's not an issue.
all right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our meeting for tonight.